what have you experienced in working with men and ministering to men, and what's your heart for them?
For that.
For that?
Well, with 20 years of being a pastor and caring deeply about people, and then being in a church that has quite a few people coming to it, you see patterns. I hate to, I don't want to sound like I'm in the movie Matrix, right? But you start to see patterns, especially over the years. You start to see patterns that repeat. You get to see people's lives and see how their lives are, where they're at, and you can see trajectories. Sometimes really good, sometimes heartbreaking. You can look and go, oh man, I can see where that could potentially head in their lives, and that's a curse and a blessing, to be able to have a seat to be able to see that. And when you talk about men and men's ministry and what True North does, which is, by the way, freaking awesome, it's amazing ministry. I have such a heart for that, for me personally, because my story is that story. I had all these misunderstandings about who God was, what it meant to walk out my life as a Christian man. One of the big hangups I had going into it was my viewpoint. What I saw as a Christian man was pretty stinking boring. It was, I don't know if you've ever had, I think they call it Melba toast. It's like, it's like a real bland toast, right? And I kind of saw it as like toast. Like there's no butter on there, ain't no salt on there. Really, when I went into church the first time with Albert, I had come to a place where, like, if I gotta be that way to get some peace in my life, well, then I'll do that. And then I found out that's not the case at all. And in my opinion, there's no more exhilarating, exciting, challenging, thrilling, fulfilling thing than saying, I will follow the master. I will follow Jesus. And when a man commits himself to that, what happens to him and then to all the people that are in his life, in his orbit. Effect. It affects them all. It affects them in every way. If he has kids and a wife, how it affects them, his immediate family, his friends, the people in his workplace. When he authentically begins following Jesus, it affects everything. And so if you're passionate about seeing the communities that we live in different, men's ministry really is important. If you're passionate about seeing the country we live in be different, men's ministry is really important. I mean, it dictates so many things.
I've said, and this is such a pie in the sky, but I think we could be the nonprofit that ends all nonprofits, other than health ones that have to happen. But like, what foster network, what abuse network, addiction network doesn't start? If you trail it back far enough, the heart of the man is the initiator. Well, and what happens if we heal that?
Exactly. I completely agree. And I don't discount health either, because our body is a temple, and the way that we live can honor God with the way that we take care of our bodies. I had a heart attack. I don't know if you know this, a year ago, and nearly died. And one of the things I was convicted of at that point was, I really haven't honored God in the way that I could. And he woke me up in that area of my life as well. So I think you're right. It's the total thing. It's everything. What you guys do here has the opportunity to move the needle in every aspect of the lives that we live.
Now, the flip side of that is men are very difficult. And
the most difficult.
There is so much warfare against their hearts, because the enemy knows the ripple effect as well. Right. If this man finds freedom and purpose and calling, it's over for him.
Yeah, it could bring freedom to a whole family. It could bring freedom to generations. It can change so many things. And I really do believe we have an enemy, and I do believe that men are are right in his crosshairs of everything that he can do to thwart them from moving forward in their relationship with Jesus.
Yeah. You got any favorite stories of seeing men come alive?
Man, all sorts of stories.
I'm sure.
I would have to say one of my favorite stories is one that you're real familiar with too, and that's a guy named Kevin from our church in Shawnee. He was a young man who grew up with incredible hardship. I mean, when you hear his story, it's a little hard to even believe. Like if you make a movie about this, people would not a lot of people became homeless when they were in the 8th grade, 7th or 8th grade, and had absolutely no one really to depend on in their lives, and to have watched the journey that young man has walked through, from that place, and to actually, I know, like the first time he was brought to our church, he had a half brother who saw him walking down the road, carrying a bag of groceries from Walmart, and invited him to church. And Kevin is now a youth pastor with Life Church at our Derby, Kansas location, and is rewriting really the story of his family. Is charting a brand new course and ending generations of brokenness that is becoming a brand new story. And that's taken a story that we could spend the next 6 hours talking about, and making it brief. But literally, he went from drug addiction and brokenness and not knowing even his value as a human being, to now knowing that he is a son of God, that he's a best friend, that he's adopted into that family, and that he's got a calling on his life. And you talk about a change. I've and the blessing of the position that I've been in is that, James, I've seen it so many times. I mean, I've seen it so many times, and there's so many distractions, and there's so many things. You talk about the enemy. We're not necessarily talking about some demon with horns that comes at you. ESPN. I know there's a lot of fellas aren't going to like to hear that, because I love a good football game. All right. It's where I grew up. It's half of who I am, was made on that football field. But it can become an idol in your life that completely distracts you from the things that are important in your life. And that's just one thing that doesn't have horns on it, that has the potential to destroy and to pull a man off of the course that he should be on. So when you talk about that kind of oppression or that kind of warfare that goes on, it's many times not the things that we would immediately point to and go, oh, well, yeah, that's the devil over there. It looks far different than that.
And similar to the victories as well. Having the gratitude towards where you are winning in life can be so. It isn't these big, huge moments. It's just like the Troy Aikman thing. Like the big, huge moment actually is kind of like, okay, like good, like we're there. But in actuality, these sweet moments from God are so subtle but so wonderful. And so we have to train ourselves to have the eyes to see those things.
Yes, we do. Yeah, we do. Got to slow down enough to actually recognize them.
And so it's kind of like the ESPNs for me will overtake my ability to have the gratitude in those moments. And so that's why it's really important about what you're saying of how deceiving and cunning these distractions can be, because how easily those can take out our ability to have gratitude for the little beautiful things that are happening. I mean, in your parenting, in your marriage, it's wild to think how many things that we should be grateful for, but then so many men just feel like they're failing in everything.
And there's and missing. I've done a lot of funerals now in 20 years, and I've actually sat at the deathbed with many people, and I was with a man yesterday who's dying of lung cancer and probably only has maybe days to live. And he did not tell me that he regretted not watching more ESPN or going to more football games. What he told me he regretted all had to do with relationships and brokenness and moments that he had missed that he wished he had never missed in his life. And those things, I don't mean to be, too harsh when I say that, but there are things that really matter in life that this world seems to work overtime to distract us from 100%. What really matters.
Yeah. We take this angle a lot in this podcast, but since I have you here, I really want to do it again. So a man's listening to this early on in his walk with God. What's your recipe for success? What's your wisdom to them to pursuing a life with God?
Well, I have a word that is a really hard word for us to wrestle with. And it's a word that most men really don't want to think about or hear. It's a word that has all sorts of negative connotation in the culture that we have been raised in, most of us, especially here in the good old USA. So the word is submission. The word is submission. And when a man learns to submit himself to something greater than himself, incredible things happen. And we see clues of this in the culture that we're a part of. I was a part of a football team in college and high school. And my high school team, I look back on it, and we had kind of a magical run. We made it to the state finals in my senior year. We lost. But we lost to a high school football team from Lawton, Oklahoma, that I believe had 7 guys that went on to play professional sports. So, and we didn't have any, okay? They definitely out-athleted us. But leading up to that, I had a tremendous high school football coach who called out the best in us. He was a Christian. I can remember one time farting in the huddle at practice and having to run a little extra because I farted in the huddle. I mean, he had a high standard, and he led us through a time where he asked us to, at this point, a lot of us were already drinking and going out on the weekends and doing things. He said, "Hey, this summer, how bad do y'all want to win state?" You went, well, everybody wanted to win state real bad. He said, "Do you want to win state bad enough that you won't drink any beer this summer?" And I remember all of us looking around at each other. And then he walked out of the room. And I was team captain, and we all made a commitment to not drink beer that summer. I wish all of us had followed up on that commitment, but most did. I think we even beat a guy up one time at a party we were at who showed up drunk. But that submission created something very special. And you can look at that in athletics across the board. When you see the teams that are great and that accomplish those things, you can look at it when people do things like join the Marine Corps and submit themselves to authority, and then the kind of power that comes from that. And there is no greater first step, no more important step than a man to begin to wrestle with what it looks like to submit himself to Jesus.
What does that look like for someone who's just getting, what are the kind of things that they need to submit to, or where does submission come in?
Well, I would say the first part of it comes from submitting that you need to learn about Jesus. And there's one place to go to begin that process, and that is to read your Bible. And when I say read it, like read it, the resources that are available now to really dig deep into it. You read something, you don't understand what it means. There are so many resources. You're part of a church, your pastor can probably guide you in what those resources would look like. I think of things like I don't know if you use like the Blue Letter Bible app, where you can dig in and you can look at the meanings of words from the languages it was written in. You can study those words if you have a confusion, but you begin to submit yourself to like, I need to know Jesus.
Yeah.
I need to know what it looks like. We call ourselves followers of Christ. What does that actually mean? Let's follow Jesus. Let's follow his example. Will that be hard?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you live in a culture that is counter that. And so it will ask things of you. Jesus said that we should count the cost, right? It's going to cost us some things, but yet the gain is incredible. It's so much more than the loss actually is. But that first step is that submission of I need to know Jesus. And I would throw the second step in as you need accountability. You need other men in your life who have said, I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Let's follow him together. And then you have someone when you're off track who loves you and you've submitted yourself to, who can say to you, hey man, I saw what you just said to your wife. That's a bunch of BS.
Yeah.
That's not how you talk to your wife.
Yeah.
And I know maybe she had done something, maybe even we could reason through that maybe she deserved for you to talk to her that way.
Yeah.
But in the end, that's not following Jesus.
Yep.
And so having those kind of relationships in your life is a huge key to begin that process and to get on the right road. And it's not even a begin, is it, James? It's lifelong.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's lifelong.
It's a daily submission.
It's a daily
it's an hourly,
thing.
minute by minute submission.
It's all the time.
Yeah.
And we all need that accountability.
Talk about because if you talk about the men's group and having that accountability, well, guess what? To get to that point where a man is even close enough to see how you speak to your wife, you're submitting your own time to invite that person in, or your own comfort. Like for me personally, I'm cool with my weekends by myself and my wife and my kids. But inviting others into that, that's all submission. There's so much submission. You're right. That's an incredible word, because from the tiniest of things to very large things, what you're doing is it's the dying to self. You're killing this fleshly desire to have things your way and submitting to what God wants for your life. And then those things come in that you're talking about.
Yeah.
I love that.
And I think there's a point, and this is one of the things that really was a big piece of trash for me to have to move to the side to submit myself. And that was an understanding of what actually had been done for me. When you really come to grasp the grace that we have in Jesus. Legalism is a terrible disease that unfortunately seems to rise up within us as any of us begin following Jesus. The longer sometimes it seems like, when I say that, sometimes in the middle it seems to be the worst. At the end, it always seems to change. The older guys I've been a part of that have been following Jesus for many years are such grace-filled men because they've seen all the mistakes, they've made the mistakes, and they recognize that we can't add anything to the cross. When we come to a place where we realize that, like, a lot of men struggle with bills, right? You ever feel any pressure with your bills?
Just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. I mean, it can get overwhelming at times, right? And when you come to a realization that every one of those bills you get in the mail, it's got a big stamp on it that says paid in full, and you didn't pay that debt, that someone paid that debt for you, that's where I believe submission begins. It begins when you realize what's been done for you that you could never do for yourself. And when you understand that grace, when you understand what he has done for you, what other response can you have? Then, oh my gosh, I will submit to him for what he has done for me. And so I don't know, that for me is what started me on that journey of, okay, I can do this. I can submit myself.